Hello students, welcome to the second session of chapter number 21, that is neural control and coordination. In last session we did study the structure of neuron, how there is conduction, and now in this session we will have to study about the transfer of the nerve impulse. So, this is the structure of a axon terminal where you can identify or see the transmission of signals. Now, when it comes to transmission of signals in human body, there are two different types of signal. One is electric signal, another is chemical signals. Electrical signals are very much rare and they are very quick in the body, but they cannot be found very frequently within the body. Most of the impulse transmission in the nerves are chemical signals which are being transferred. For this one, we have to know initially that it involves a particular region which is called synapse. If you remember the diagram of a neuron, you know that the axon ends in an axon terminal which has a bulbous structure which is called synaptic knob, where there is presence of synapse. Now what is a synapsis? This is the axon terminal with the axon knob which we call presynaptic membrane. Then comes a space in between which is called synaptic cleft, after which one there comes once again the membrane which is called a post-synaptic membrane. So a presynaptic membrane, a synaptic cleft and a post-synaptic membrane in together helps in formation of synapse. A synapse is necessary for transmission of the nerve impulse. As I have told, in our body we have chemical signals which are being transmitted, which are carried within small vesicles called synaptic vesicles. Within the synaptic vesicle, these chemical signals are present which are termed neurotransmitter. Whenever there is action potential which is created in the axon, which helps in transfer of the signals from the axon into the axon terminal, the synaptic vesicle from the synaptic knob, that is tip of the axon terminal, will start to move towards the ends of the presynaptic membrane which now carries the neurotransmitters or chemical signals. Once they reach the presynaptic membrane, the synaptic vesicle will fuse with the presynaptic membrane which helps in release of this neurotransmitter into a space called synaptic cleft. So, ಈ synaptic vesicles ಯಾವಾಗ ಆಕ್ಟಿವೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ axon ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಿಮ್ಯುಲೈ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಿ axon ಟರ್ಮಿನಲ್ ಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆದಾಗ synaptic vesicles ಗಳು synaptic knob ನ ಟಿಪ್ ಇಂದ presynaptic membrane ಹತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದ್ರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ಸು ನ್ಯೂರೋ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಮಿಟರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಸರಿ ಇದು ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಸಿನಾಪ್ಟಿಕ್ ನಾಬ್ನ ವೈಡರ್ ರೀಜನ್ಗೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಈ ಸಿನಾಪ್ಟಿಕ್ ವೆಸಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರೀಸಿನಾಪ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಜೊತೆ ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಈ ನ್ಯೂರೋ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಮಿಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಿನಾಪ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕ್ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ರೀಜನ್ಗೆ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಸಿನಾಪ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕ್ಲೆಫ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ನ್ಯೂರೋ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಮಿಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ next comes the post-synaptic membrane which contains receptors. This green color structures what I have written are receptors. So this receptors will start to accept the neurotransmitters which will lead to the transfer of signal from one neuron into the either muscle or to the next channel what is present to the end of this synaptic knob, which either leads to excitability or leads to inhibition. There might be two chances, either the body get excited or the particular part of the body might get excited to do a particular work, or there will be inhibition to stop the work. For any of the either works, it requires the nerve impulse which has to be transmitted from the synapse. So that's about transmission or transfer of nerve impulse. It takes place from the axon terminal within the synaptic knob containing synaptic vesicles with chemical signals in the form of neurotransmitters. Once the synaptic vesicles get activated, they move towards the presynaptic membrane, fuses with the presynaptic membrane to release the neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft. From the synaptic cleft, the neurotransmitters are accepted by the receptors which are present in the post-synaptic membrane. Hence, there is transfer of this nerve impulse, which leads to either excitatory process or inhibition process. That is about transfer of nerve impulse. Next, we will have to study about human brain. On this screen, you can see the diagram or cross-sectional view of a human brain. So brain does the function of controlling or commanding the body system so that it works in a harmony. So it helps in controlling all the different types of systems, different types of emotions, language, everything is under the control of brain. That is why it is called controlling and commanding system. This brain is a soft structure which is protected within a hard structure called skull. This skull forms the outer layer within which brain is present, but they also are covered with the layer of cranial meninges, which are divided into 3 different regions, forming the outer, dura mater, middle, arachnoid, and the inner, pia mater. So, the cranial meninges are divided into 3 main layers: outer dura mater, middle arachnoid, and the inner pia mater. Apart from this one, brain can also be divided into 3 different regions, that will be forebrain, midbrain as well as hindbrain. So, let us study about how the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain controls the body systems. Forebrain, it comes or it occupies the front part of the brain, which is further divided into 3 main regions, that will be cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. When it comes to cerebrum, the cerebrum divides the brain into 2 different regions, which leads to formation of left hemisphere and right hemisphere, that is the left cerebral hemisphere and right cerebral hemisphere. These both hemispheres are connected with the help of tract of nerves which are called corpus callosum. So, cerebrum, it is divided into 2 lobes, which leads to formation of left cerebral hemisphere and right cerebral hemisphere. These both hemispheres are held together with the tract of nerve called corpus callosum. This hemisphere have a layer of cells outside, which is called cerebral cortex. In the cerebral cortex, if you see, the color of the cerebral cortex is grey in color. This grey color is due to the presence of the cell body of the neurons, that is why they are termed grey matter. Whereas the inner part of the cerebral cortex, it is white in color because of presence of myelinated part of the neuron, which is why they are called white matter. The cerebrum controls the motor, sensory as well as the communication skills in case of a human being. So, that is about cerebrum. Cerebrum, it is divided into 2 different lobes, which we call right cerebral hemisphere and left cerebral hemisphere, held together by a tract of nerves called corpus callosum. They have a thin layer of cells outside the lobe, which is termed cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex appear to be grey in color due to the presence of the cell body of the neuron, whereas the inner region appears to be white because it contains the myelinated part of the axon. So, that is why they are called white matter. These cerebrum helps in controlling the motor, sensory and communication skills in case of human being. Apart from this one, they also help in forming folds in or prominent folds in case of the brain, which appears to be wavy in structure, what you can see on the screen. So, that is about the cerebrum. Next, moving on into thalamus region. So, thalamus, it is the region which is protected by the cerebrum. So, cerebrum wraps around the thalamus and thalamus helps in controlling the motor as well as sensory signalings, which is protected with the help of cerebrum. Last one is the hypothalamus. This hypothalamus is present at the base of the thalamus, which contains neurosecretory cells which helps in producing hypothalamic hormones. Apart from this one, they also help in creating urge for drinking water or for eating. So, our hunger is created because of this hypothalamus. So, these are the different regions which are present in the forebrain. Apart from this one, they also have a system called limbic system, or we also call it limbic lobe. This is formed due to the formation or combination of amygdala and hippocampus, which regulates the sexual behavior, which controls the emotions, which helps in overcoming the stress, or also helps in motivating the individual. So, all this is controlled by the limbic system, which is formed by the association of amygdala and hippocampus, which is again present in the forebrain. So, that is all about the forebrain. So, the forebrain contains of three different major parts: cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. Cerebrum leads to formation of cerebral hemisphere with prominent folds held together by corpus callosum. They contain a thin layer of cells called cerebral cortex, which is grey in color due to the cell body of the neuron. And when it comes to the center region, these are termed white matter due to presence of myelinated part of a axon. They help in controlling the motor, sensory as well as communicating skills in case of human being. Thalamus, it is wrapped around with the cerebrum, which helps or which protects the thalamus. It controls the motor as well as sensory signaling. Last part will be the hypothalamus, which is present at the base of the thalamus, which contains neurosecretory cells producing the hypothalamic hormones. This controls the body temperature, urge for drinking as well as eating. Apart from this one, forebrain also contains a system called limbic system or limbic lobe, which is formed due to the combination of amygdala as well as hippocampus. This amygdala and hippocampus helps in regulating the sexual behavior. They helps in motivating the body as well as the mind. They also lead to depression or controlling the emotions like fear, scare, happiness, etc. Next is about the midbrain. The location of the midbrain is between the thalamus and hypothalamus as well as the pons of the hindbrain. So, midbrain is present between the thalamus and hypothalamus as well as the pons of the hindbrain. So, you can see the midbrain in this particular region. A canal which passes to the midbrain, which is called Cerebral Aqueduct, and the midbrain, it is divided into 4 different lobes. These 4 different round swelling lobes, which are termed corpora quadrigemina, that is about midbrain. So, a midbrain, it is located between thalamus and hypothalamus as well as pons of the hindbrain. The midbrain is divided into 4 round swelling lobes, which are termed corpora quadrigemina. Next is about hindbrain. Hindbrain and forebrain mixes together and helps in formation of the brain stem. A hindbrain, it is divided into 3 main regions called pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Pons, they help in interconnecting different regions of the brain, whereas cerebellum provides space for the neurons to be added there, and medulla oblongata, it connects with the spinal cord and helps in controlling and regulating the different systems or organ systems of the body like respiration, gastric secretions and cardiovascular reflexes. So, in together, the hindbrain leads to formation of the brain stem, includes 3 different parts, that is pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Wherein pons, they help in interconnecting different regions of the brain, and cerebellum, it helps in providing enough space so that the neurons can be added or extra neurons can be fitted into the space provided by cerebellum. Medulla oblongata is the one which helps in connecting the brain with the spinal cord, as well as controls or regulates different organs or organ system like respiration, cardiovascular reflexes and gastrointestinal secretions or gastric secretions. So, this in together are the different parts of the brain. So, a human brain which includes the forebrain, midbrain as well as the hindbrain, where forebrain it includes cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus, which in together helps in controlling the motors, sensory as well as communicating signals. Whereas the midbrain it is divided into corpora quadrigemina, which passes into a canal called cerebral aqueduct. A hindbrain is divided into pons, cerebellum as well as medulla oblongata, which regulates or controls the organs and organ system. So, that is in detail about the human brain. That is all in this particular chapter. So, in this chapter we did discuss regarding the structure of neuron, types of neuron, types of axons, generating and regulation of nerve impulse, transmission of nerve impulse as well as in detail about the structure of human brain along with the different parts of human brain. So, that is all in this particular session. Thank you.